Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition, the Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown, where we bring you 2A news and conservative views. My name is Mike Piwowarski. I will be your host today, the host from the East Coast to the coast with the most. But I don't do this program by myself.
No, you do not, sir. My name is Craig DeLuz, and I will be coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And, love doing this program, especially on Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah, it's a great day for Thursdays. It's a relaxing beverage day. Let's just say that. Never
It,
during the program, never before the program, folks. This is responsible journalism. We wait till after, or at least till halfway through.
or at least till halfway through. At least till we're off
At
camera.
least we're okay. Yeah, right.
Maybe in between shots, but who knows?
Yeah.
Shots in
Yeah.
between shots.
Shots. That's it. Shots. Let's go, Brandon. There you go. There's a shot for you. Let's see. I see you've been having some weather out there, Craig.
It has been somewhat nasty out here. Like I've told you before, I can handle the wet and I can handle the cold. California cold is like 40 some odd
Yeah.
degrees during the day, 30 at night. That's kind of California cold.
Right.
But when it's cold and it's wet and rainy, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of a pain. And by the way, and you don't get snow.
Right. Yeah. That's the double or triple whammy there. You get all the bad stuff without any of the benefit of the snow on the ground. Yeah.
Exactly. Come on, if I'm going to put up with the cold and precipitation coming from the sky,
Right.
I could at least get a little snow.
Right.
Especially
Only
around
thing I want from the
Christmas.
sky is tacos. That's right.
Taco.
Tacos. Raining tacos. Oh boy. Yeah. Let's see. Since we're stuck at 80 degrees here, still in Florida, so that's
Poor
just the way it
Michael.
is. Just the way it is. But
You are so
we got to
oppressed.
we got. I think we got to, at the end of the program, if we got time, and we got a story about a guy in Florida who tried to change the temperature here. So we'll talk about him. He tried.
Ugh, not too
Yeah.
bright. Not too bright.
Hey, you know what? He may not have started out Florida man, but that's where he wanted to end up as
Well,
Florida man. So
that's exactly that is exactly it. Started off Sacramento, man.
that's right. Ended up Florida man. Oh yeah, classic Florida man.
It shows if
Well,
we
let's
work
see.
hard, we all can be famous
That's right,
or
exactly right.
infamous.
Infamous. There you go. There you go. It's a hey, you can't be infamous without famous.
There,
Uh,
point
let's
well
see.
made.
Let's see. You know what my favorite one like that is? You can't have manslaughter without laughter.
Wow.
It basically says man's laughter is what manslaughter is. Let's see. let's, let's see what we got here. All right, so let's get
Let's
into the
get
stories
into
because we went a
let's
little
get
long
into the
yesterday
news.
and missed some stories. Yeah, let's do some news here and get off the manslaughter dad jokes. So let's do this. London Breed. In case you're thinking, why are we doing a story about England? We're not. London Breed is the mayor of San Francisco. I did not realize her first name was London, so story confused me at first. And then I realized I was listening or talking about a San Francisco story, reading about a San Francisco story. She's a Democrat mayor, Craig, like everybody else there in San Francisco. But she has decided over the past couple of days that she is done with the BS that is destroying her city. And you know what the BS is, right?
Her
The BS
policies.
is what's that?
Her policies.
Exactly right. Yeah. Her policies and everything else that the Democratic Party has contributed to in San Francisco. Now, she wanted to reiterate that it's still going to be a city of tolerance, and that is what the history of San Francisco is, the city of tolerance. She's just done with the city of not, arresting you for crimes. So she is much concerned about the theft, the rash of thefts that are going on, the smash and grabs, the running into stores. She's worried about the burglaries. She's worried about all of the rampant crime that's been going on since the defund the police movement began just over a year ago. And it is her determination that now she's taking up certain public safety policies to help eliminate those crimes. So, she won't come right out and say it. She says, "I have a public safety policy now that's going to help eliminate those crimes, and I'm working with other agencies here in the city government." And what she means is, I'm giving money to the police and making them arrest bad people. but she won't come right out and say it.
Well, you know what makes me mad? She's like, well, we're not a city where anything goes. Yes, you are. Have you not
Yeah.
been watching? Have you
Yeah.
not been paying attention to what has been going on over the last 2 years there in your city? Yes,
Right.
you are a city where anything goes, where you can do just about anything and you won't go to jail. Because guess what? You're in a state that is in that same exact position. You don't enforce immigration laws. People get arrested. Illegal immigrants get arrested and go out and kill people. And you don't do anything. You haven't done anything about it. I'm sorry. The thing that gets me about this whole thing is that these big city mayors who are now talking tough on crime won't admit that it was their own policies. Them and their Democratic Party, them and their fellow Democrats, it's their policies that set these folks loose on the streets doing exactly what they're doing. How about this? How about just admitting, yeah, we were wrong? And then after you say you were wrong, then get it right. Because the one thing I believe about the American people is the American people can be forgiving, but you got to own your stuff, man. You got to own your stuff. And this was all you. This was all your Democratic Party, and you should own it.
And that's what this is looking like. She is one of the first major mayors of a major city to address these issues since they've been going on for the past year and a half or so. So she is, again, the large city mayor that now has to discuss crime. The Democrat policies of defund the police and don't put people in jail is clearly backfiring on them. So she's the first one to have to examine it. So let's see if other mayors start to follow suit. Let's see if they come up with a better plan to blame the conservatives and the Republicans for what's going on. So, because again, let's face it, the midterms are coming up, so they'll find a way to spin this to where they have to put more money back into law enforcement. And they have to be tough on crime, and they're going to make that because of something President Trump did.
Well, you're seeing it happen in San Francisco. You're seeing it happen in Oakland. You're seeing it happen in Minneapolis. You're seeing it happen in Detroit. All of these places that fought to defund the police, they're actually refunding the police. They're actually putting money back into law enforcement. But folks, that's not enough. You got to undo some of these laws that decriminalized crime.
Yeah.
Because it does no good if the police show up and go to arrest them, and then you just put them back out on the streets.
Yeah, listen, New York City just hired or elected a former NYPD captain as their mayor. Again, he's a Democrat, we get that, but his major policy was public safety. So
well, and I think that was the roadmap for Democrats in 2022. In 2022, they're going to have to be tough on crime. Now, the challenge is, and the thing that we have to do as Republicans or as conservatives is point out, all they're doing is undoing the mistakes, or at least pretending to, offering rhetoric to undo the mistakes that they made. It's like, come on, man, look, if I'm the one who broke your car, right, should I really be bragging about the fact that I can fix it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's, again, I think that's the dilemma here is how do they bring this back in and not say we screwed up? They're going to have to bring this back in and say we're fixing the problems that President Trump caused or that any Republican has caused.
It was interesting. I actually was listening to a podcast from Will Cain the other day, and he was pointing out that at the end of Trump's presidency, they were talking about him on average at least two times per show, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now they're talking about him in this last month. They've talked about him 3 times per program. In other words, they're losing viewership. I mean, CNN, their viewership is down like 80%. And they're realizing that, dang, Donald Trump was good for our ratings. We knew that. You knew that. I knew that. But Donald Trump was good for their ratings. And so now they figure, well, we have a quarter of the number of viewers. So if we want to get at least a half of where we were, we now have to mention him at least 1.5, 2 times as much.
Yep. Yeah. And listen, CNN, they're not only losing viewers, they're losing anchors, so they got to do something, they got to.
Well, they're hiring Fox News anchors. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. They hired Fox News away. We got a story in here about somebody else they're hiring, but
yes.
Yeah, they're doing anything, right? Like I said, remember the COVID kept has gotten the COVID brothers, the Cuomo brothers, out of work, so
unemployed.
Blame it on the COVID. Blame it on the COVID. All right, let's roll into our next story. Go across the California border here into Nevada, and let's talk about some ghost guns. Craig, just so I'm not the only one talking here, tell the folks what a ghost gun is.
It's a very scary gun. In essence, it's a homemade firearm that's made from like an 80% lower that does not have a serial number. And of course, in their eyes, any firearm that does not have a serial number is considered a ghost gun.
Right. Ghost is a term made up by the left. You're absolutely allowed to build your own firearm in your home. ATF determines that it becomes a firearm when the receiver is more than 80% complete. Whether or not it fires a bullet or not, whether or not you assembled it wrong, whether or not the holes are facing the wrong direction, it doesn't matter. Once it's beyond 80%, ATF says it's a firearm, and they're calling those the ghost guns because they don't have serial numbers. Well, hey, if it's your gun, you're not required to have a serial number on it. Only time you're required to have a serial number on it is when you decide year or 2 years later, I'm going to sell it. I don't like it anymore. I want to do it again. I want to try a different way. Now, you cannot do this and make them to sell them. That would be manufactured without a license, but you can make yourself the occasional firearm that you plan on keeping. Anyway, Nevada had a law last cycle get passed that they were going to ban ghost guns. This was right along the time when we saw a lot of this rolling through the blue states, and Nevada being one of them purples. It got written into state law that you could not possess, use, transport, blah blah blah, a ghost gun. Well, the state courts there had a suit filed against the ghost gun and its legality, and the Supreme Court there, I believe it was the Nevada Supreme Court, said, yeah, it's unconstitutional. You can't ban this item. So it's been overturned in Nevada. Nevada has stood up and said,
yeah. In this case, it's actually just a circuit court judge, a state judge. Okay. It's still got to go through the process. But yeah, no, basically what they're saying is this, kind of what we already knew, that you have the right to be able to build, to do a home build. The problem is, Mike, they don't really understand the technology. The people who keep passing these laws, and they're getting these laws right straight out of Gifford Law Center. And the folks over at Gifford don't know guns, don't like guns, don't care about guns, and don't really understand the technology. And they offer up legislation that in the end winds up not doing what it is that they want it to do. And the reason why they don't understand it is because, here's what they do. They say, okay, this defines an 80% lower. Well, then as soon as you know what an 80% lower is, then I'll just make it 79%.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So this state justice, he's a state judge. He's not on the Supreme Court. My bad. He decided and put the injunction in place saying that the law is unconstitutional. That looks like where it's going to stand. If it does get appealed, it'll have to go to state court or state Supreme Court. So,
and this is the reason why, and this is why I keep telling people, it's great that you pay attention to who's running for president, but there's a reason why who runs for governor and who runs for state legislature and who runs for judge counts, because a lot of these decisions, most of these cases will never make it to the Supreme Court. They're going to be decided a lot closer to you. So it's important that you pay attention when you have judges coming up for re-election. Find out, in some places they're elected, in some places they run for re-election. Like in California, they're appointed and then they run for re-election. Find out how they ruled on the Second Amendment and on conservative issues. Find those things out because you get a chance to determine and vote them up or down. Right? You need to know where they stand on these particular issues. And by the way, governors in many cases appoint judges, and legislators, they confirm them. So how about you pay attention to who's running locally? Nevada used to be a red state. Now it's a purple state. Well, in no small part because many Los Angelinos or Californians have moved to Las Vegas.
That's right.
And now you have the tail wagging the dog there in the great state of Nevada.
Yep.
Or the formerly great state of Nevada.
That's right.
If you don't think you're formerly great in Nevada, prove me wrong. Swing back to the
state's nickname? What's the state's nickname? Do you remember this?
You know what? I was thinking about it and I cannot remember.
The Silver State, right?
The Silver State. There you go. Yeah, the Silver State. I believe it's the Silver State. Yeah. Well, go for gold. Go for gold, guys.
That's right.
Go for gold. become Republican again, become conservative
Yeah,
again.
and if you go for gold, you're supposed to go to San Francisco because that's where you're supposed to mine for gold, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's where
how
you
San
go to
Francisco
mine for.
got to be, right?
That's where you go to get poop right now.
That's right. But is my San Francisco history right? Isn't that where the 49ers went? 1849 and founded the city, and they were looking for gold. I'm a
Well, yes, but
49er.
it wasn't in San Francisco. It was actually in the Sierras, basically in the area where I live,
Right.
where they found it. But a lot of the that San Francisco is where a lot of the gold miners came into. So they came into the port of
Yes.
San Francisco, port of Oakland, and whatnot, and they
Yeah.
would then travel to the Sierras to look for gold
There you
in
go.
them our hills.
That's it. That's it. There you go. There you go. History lessons and everything, folks. We got it all for you. Uh, let's see here. Let's move right along. We're going to talk about one of our famous, one of my favorite anti-gun police chiefs. Well, former police chief now. Well, let's see. One, two, three, four former times. One as a commander, three as police chief. So this guy is again leaves the California Highway Patrol, leaves Austin, leaves Houston, leaves Miami. Miami gets the bums rush. He gets thrown out on a rail. That guy down there. They didn't even wait 6 months. They were like, he's out. He's out. I'm talking about none other than Art Acevedo, the former police chief, recently ousted, fired police chief from Miami. And as we've said to you many times, he is an anti-gun. As long as the day gets, he says the only ones that should have the guns are the government, so the government can take care of you.
Would
Take
you consider him to
care
be? Would you consider him to be a pro-crime cop?
pro-crime? If he's
Yes.
anti-gun, then he's obviously pro-crime. It's just the way it works. If you intend on violating the rights of Second Amendment, supporters, well, then that's a crime. So
Right.
yes.
So what's he up to now?
Oh, he got a new gig. Evidently, since Cuomo's out, no, he's not the governor of New York now. I'm talking to the other Cuomo, Fredo. He is now going to be one of the news contributors there at CNN, focusing on law enforcement. Well, they say law enforcement, but I have a feeling they're going to give this guy a little bit bigger role. And again, this was as predicted right here on the rundown that he would end up there. So.
Mike, I got to tell you, and I don't remember exactly when you said it, but I do remember you saying he'll probably wind up as a commentator somewhere on CNN. I got to give you credit. Got to give you credit. I'm not going to go back to the archives to try and find
Right.
it. I remember it. You said it.
Yeah, this guy is. Listen, when we first started rating cops, we had the police chiefs. Let's be clear on that. Police executives, law
Yes.
enforcement executives. He was actually number 2 on the list. The first on the list was Kathy Lanier. If you recall, Kathy Lanier was the Metropolitan DC, commissioner or police chief or whatever it was, and she was the one holding up single-handedly, by the way, holding up the enforcement of Heller and McDonald and allowing firearms to be sold and issued, permits to be issued in the DC area, which is why we got Heller 2, that decision because of her. So, yeah, she's gone now. She's hope just so everybody feels safe. She's the director of security at the NFL, and she's been there for about
Oh,
a year and a half,
great.
2 years.
Well, Mike, one of the things that's interesting about this, and I think that we're going to start to see, is you're going to start to see a big push for guys like this. Because right now, as we talked about in the very beginning, crime is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a huge topic in the upcoming election. And so folks like CNN and MSNBC now and ABC and all these other mainstream news networks have to seem like they have experts in law enforcement. Now, here's what I will say: if you've held an executive position in a city that is where crime increased, where that was crime ridden, where you didn't enforce the laws, that doesn't make you a criminal justice expert. Not at all. Unless your goal is to increase crime. If that's what your goal is, then this guy is definitely an expert. But but it makes no sense to me. It's like these people don't get it. It's like I see this all the time. You keep hiring people who are horrible at their jobs, and then when they're horrible at their jobs, now you want them to go and you want them to commentate on other people. Well, they sucked at their job, so why would you want them commentating?
It's not a real word, by the way. Commentate, not a real word.
It is a word.
It's not
Actually,
a
it is a word. People don't like the word, but commentating is actually a word.
It's not a real word. You have commentation, you have a commentator, and you can make a comment. There is no commentate. It's not a real
Yeah,
word.
it's a word. I've looked it up. It's in the dictionary.
No, yeah.
I know
Show me
people
an
say
actual-
that, but it is. It's
Show me an
there.
actual dictionary. You know what? I'll give you a pass if you could show me an actual dictionary and not. Well, I looked it up on the internet and it's there under Reddit. Yeah. No, sorry, that's not where definitions and word exist. You have to bring it up to me in an actual dictionary, and the internet is not an actual dictionary.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we
can
have
show
to
you.
kind of be in the
I can
same
show you where
room for
I'm
us to have
popular
an
on the
actual,
internet.
for me to show it to you on an actual dictionary.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to get there.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's move right along from Craig's commentating and go into the next topic, which is actually Craig's topic. So we will let him have his commentary.
All right. Uno momento, por favor. Having some
I mean,
technical difficulties
if we're just
here.
making up words, you can have your commentary about it. We can.
Hold on.
Psst, psst, you're next.
No, having some issues here. Don't know why.
Oh.
Don't know what's going on.
Oh, all right. Well, that's all right. I can show everybody around the room right here. If anybody is just cares, you see my ice maker over here. It's actually not working correctly anymore. It fills up. Right, you turn it on. I got even with a timer also.
Okay, we're done with that. We're done. We're done with your commentating. Okay. Your commentary. Yeah, right. Yeah. You are not a commentarian. Now I'm making up words. Okay, so this particular story I found to be interesting. It has to do with there was this article that we were reading that we were going to do this story yesterday, and it actually didn't quite work out. Wound up not having time, but they're talking about specifically whenever we look at whenever youth commit violence, right? Whenever we're talking whether it's a school shooter, whether it's someone who's involved in gang violence or anything like that, we always look at the parents and we look at them differently based on the color, or at least not we. The mainstream media always looks at them differently when it comes to whatever color they are. And I'll give you an example. The school shooting that occurred in Michigan, they actually wound up arresting the parents and charging them because their 14-year-old, got access to a firearm. But what's interesting is that you had the instance which occurred, I believe it was in Michigan, Mike, where the young man was involved in gang violence. In fact, he woke up in the morning and he actually had tweeted that, he knew people were looking for him to shoot him, right? The executive there at McDonald's said something about it. And basically said that the parents failed him. And if he was involved in something that was going to cause him or put his life at risk, maybe the parents should really rethink their parenting, or they basically that they let him down. And everybody went, no, that was in Chicago. That was in Chicago, I believe. Everybody went after him, talked about how racist it was. In other words, the point that he was making here is the mainstream media, when it comes to when a white kid it does an act of violence, it must be bad parenting. But when a black kid does something or is involved in violence or violence involving firearms, well, you can't hold the parents accountable. It's not the parents' fault. And, the point of this article, and I forgot to pull it up, but I wanted to kind of show everybody that article. But the point of this article is, why do we have this double standard when it comes to race? When it comes to parenting, when it comes to parenting, why does the mainstream media have this double standard? And so that was kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about today and see what you kind of thought about that, Mike.
And I'm trying to find the quote here from this the CEO of McDonald's made the comment, and it was about a shooting in Chicago. He tweeted, let's see if we can get it right here. He suggested in a text. Exactly, it was he's a CEO, Chris Kempczinski. He suggested in a text to Chicago's mayor, and that'd be, I'll say it once, Lori Lightfoot, that the parents of the two children recently killed in Chicago's gang activity had failed those kids. So he said that the parents had failed those kids. His text became public in November of 2021, prompting widespread accusations of racism and calls for his resignation. And then Kaczynski confessed to his white privilege and apologized profusely for holding parents responsible for the fate of their children. So what started off as like, oh, it looks like he's going to apologize, was just a further, nah, in your face, Dick Tracy. So he said, yeah, that's right. I'm wrong because I say we hold parents responsible for their own children. Craig, I don't think it comes down to anything more than the ability to maintain a family unit. If you're going to have a regular household, if you're going to have a split household, it doesn't matter whether it's to me, whether it's black or white, whether it's a single mother, whether it's a joint family, whether it's a mother stepfather kind of thing. It really doesn't matter to me. It has, and I don't think it comes down to race. It comes down to the media's view of telling the story. I don't think it has a difference from a black child growing up in a black household to a white child growing up in a white household. I think the media says black on black crime is not the agenda we want to help push for the liberals and the Democrat Party, so we're going to pay no attention to it. And only when a white kid's involved are we going to make an issue of it.
Right. Well, here it is. It was in the City Journal, was the article, and I apologize for some of the mix-ups there, folks. But yeah, it was there in the City Journal, and it's actually a very good, very well put together piece. Mike, you're 100% right. It all has to do about parenting, but it's important that we hold everybody to the same standard, that we point out the fact that the role, I mean, if you want to talk about a lot of the ills that are facing, whether it's dropouts, whether it's suicide, whether it's financial success when they become older. There are so many different aspects that come down to how involved parents are in their children's lives, right. And parenting is vitally important. But to say in this particular case that, if there's violence, if it's a black kid, well, their parents had nothing to do with it. How dare you? It's racist for you to say something about it.
Yeah.
But if it's a white kid, well, it's all the parents' fault. I just, having that double standard you can't get away with that now because we have the ability now to research and look up all of this stuff that you're saying and realize just how full of it you are.
Yeah, listen, we could go on for hours and hours and days and talking about the proper footprint at the house, how it gets there, economic levels and everything else. But what it comes down to is a parent needs to be the parent.
Right?
You can't be the helicopter. You can't have two helicopter parents or one helicopter parent if it's a one parent household and expect those things to occur. The school is not disciplining your children. The church is not disciplining your children. It is up to you to set that standard and discipline your children. You can delegate away your responsibility, or you can delegate away the authority to take care of them, but not the responsibility to discipline them. So
exactly. Excellent point, one and all.
All right, so let's move into some COVID. Love my good COVID stories. We got another couple COVID stories come up. And Craig and I started to read this one. This was out of the Atlantic. And I thought, well, this should be entertaining, right? It's a good story from the Atlantic on COVID. Let's see how long I can go without throwing a coffee pot against the wall reading this story. For the record, I don't even drink coffee. It was just a, analogy, metaphor. I just not wanting to get excited about stuff, but this one kind of had me ready to go. And as you read this story, you realize, all right, this must be an opinion piece because I'm kind of agreeing with this one here. This turns out to be a really good story, not a short read. Take yourself 10, 20 minutes and have a gander at this one. It describes how outside of a couple of major metropolitan areas with Democrat-controlled cities, to make that clear, because there are major metropolitan areas that are Republican-controlled cities, but unless you're in one of those Democrat-controlled hot spots or major cities, the rest of the country doesn't care one iota about COVID anymore. Done with it, over with it, live my life like it's not even there, and that's what this story goes into. And Craig, I I'm trying to remember the last time I had to wear a mask. I think it might have been at a doctor's appointment. They're still a little hypersensitive about it. Other than that, it would have been on the last time I was on a plane. Even now, there's a pair of CEOs out there this week that are saying to the FAA and TSA, not sure why we're wearing these, folks. Not sure why we're wearing these anymore. But, it's amazing because that's what the story went to. It's no concern. You'll hear it and you're like, oh, it doesn't bother me. I'm not worried about it.
What he pointed out was that there are a lot of people who are living their lives like, okay, COVID. They're realizing this very common sense thing, right? And here's the common sense thing, is that COVID is a thing. Right. It's a thing that people are dying of. It's a thing you need to be aware of. You need to know where it's at. You need to know, what they're saying about it and how dangerous it is. But here's the thing. It's a risk. It's living life with a risk, just like we live our lives with the risk of getting hit by a bus or by another car or, having a heart attack, whatever it is. And what he's saying is that in most cases, most reasonable people are looking at it, they're reading the data, and they're making decisions for themselves. And in a lot of cases, they're not living life in the bubble that the left-wing media and Democrats want us to live in. Right? One of the great examples he uses, he said, there are still people out there who push the idea of you absolutely, if you are pregnant, cannot touch a drop of alcohol or you cannot drink any caffeine. When all of the studies show that, neither one of those should you be drinking to an extreme, but drinking a drop or whatever, it's not the danger end all be all that they make it out to be. And that we have to live our life and we have to be measured in the way in the decisions that we make. And COVID is just one of those things now that we have to make a decision about. We have to realize, am I young, healthy and fit, or am I old and obese? If I'm old and obese, I need to be more careful than someone who is young and healthy, right? No, I don't need to lock myself away in my closet wearing a mask and a face shield, 24/7. I don't have to do that, right? And that's what he's pointing out here is it seems like to someone that no one really cares about COVID. And it's not so much that people don't care about COVID. It's that they're intaking the data and they're making measured, they're living their lives. They're continuing to live their lives and not living in fear.
You mean I don't have to wear my COVID mask anymore when I'm indoors to protect myself? This protects me from the big particles.
The big part, the very big particles.
The very big particles that come at you, very fast. Say 90 miles an hour.
And some might argue that is about as protective as many of the face masks that are worn. Yeah,
it's
when it comes to COVID.
True. It's true. Yeah. It's a good article. It's a good read. It's I think it's important for the rest of the country to read, and maybe now that it's in the Atlantic, and it'll get widespread play amongst the liberals in the major controlled cities, liberal controlled cities, that they'll read what one of their own kind has said. This is not from, by the way, a Trumper. This is nothing to do with politics. They're said, I'm living in my town and I'm living in my city, and there's no threat. I'm living my life normal. And that's what we've done. And we've been doing it for many years now. So when they see things like Governor Newsom come up and go, well, we're putting the whole state on indoor mask lockdown again, except for San Francisco, because evidently inside in San Francisco is safer than outside of San Francisco. It's just, there's nobody goes in and out of San Francisco, Craig. There's no way it could spread to San Francisco. Oh, that's right. The mayor there is being tough on crime right now. She doesn't have time for COVID.
Right. One would think.
Yeah.
But we shall see. Moving right along.
Let's go ahead. We're gonna go into our parting shot. And I think if we got a story for parting shot, don't we?
Okay, so I wound up not doing the story for parting shot, but I could actually go ahead and why don't you do this? Why don't you tell the story and I'll get it all set up for him.
All right. So here's the story. You got it, Craig? Just kidding. Let's see. We teased you about it earlier in the show. There's this rocket scientist / brain surgeon that lives in or visits the Sacramento area, and he wanted to visit the southwest corner of Florida down in Fort Myers, but he figured, there's certain aspects of his California lifestyle that he certainly could not live without, or perhaps he saw this as the opportunity to bring life-saving medication to Southwest Florida. Man arrested after flying into Florida airport with 24 pounds of weed. You got that right, folks. That's not 24 ounces. That's not 2.4 ounces. That's not 2.4 grams. That's 24 pounds. That's just over 10 kilos. Just so you're clear. If you want to see that in your head, that's 10 bricks of marijuana wrapped in the plastic. So 24 pounds he tries to take it. Listen, he went to the airport there, and it's legal at the state level in California for public use or for personal use. I thought there was a rule for, like, there was a limit you could have for personal use. I may be wrong, but evidently he packed up 24 pounds.
There is a limit as to how much you can have, and that was way over the limit. The thing I wanted to point out in this one is, understand, this is a Florida man. This was not a California, a Sacramentan. This was not a Californian who went to Florida. This was a Florida man. But he did come out of Sacramento. The only thing I was telling Mike before the program, the only thing that would have made this even more funny is if he flew into Orlando, which is where Mike is.
Now, Orlando, he probably would have had the chance to get in. I've told you about the TSA woes here in Orlando. This guy, it's amazing. And I like the police officers on the other end. They're like, oh, yeah, no, it's legal here in Florida, but where are you going? Or excuse me, it's legal here in California. Where are you going? Florida? Yeah, no worries. We're not going to take your picture or a description of your suitcase and send that to the police down there and tell them to wait for you. We would never do that. I don't think that guy was in the air before they were on the phone with the Fort Myers PD airport police. He lands there. He gets off the plane. He grabs the bag from the carousel, and as he realizes he's being followed, he puts the bag back on the carousel. Like, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't my bag. I didn't mean to.
Well, Mike, now let me ask you this. I'm not a legal expert, but let me ask you this. So, even if he went from a state where it was legal to a state where it's legal, because he flew from one state to another, doesn't that then make it a federal crime?
It is going to be an interstate commerce issue, and it was illegal. It's still illegal in Florida.
Right.
So let's be clear on it. It's legal in California, illegal in Florida. Florida only has a very, very, very limited restriction lifted on it for
medical
I forget the
purposes.
name. It's a child. What's that?
Medical or just
but it's for one childhood disease in Florida.
Okay.
Now they're pushing and pushing and pushing, but I can't remember the name of the illness for children.
When they first legalized it for medical use, dude, you could go down to Venice Beach and literally there were a bunch of these places where you just go in and you just say, yeah, I'm depressed. And they'll say, okay, well, what causes your depression? I'm out of weed. And they'll give you a prescription.
Yeah. Listen, no, I've seen them, and it's like the old, it's like the old Henny Youngman act. It's like, hey doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that. There you go. Here's some weed.
Here's your prescription.
So,
all right, man. Time to give a shout out to the sponsors.
10 kilos, won the prize. And it looks like from his picture, he might have enjoyed a kilo on the way.
That probably in part played a part of his decision to do that.
Yep.
Oh, Lord. All right. Hey, how about shout out to our sponsors?
Hey, let's say hello to Gorilla Machining, Grid Defense, and the California Republican Assembly. Links are there in the comments. Please check them out. We don't do this program without their help, so you should help them too.
Exactamundo. And folks, that's going to be it for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Freed Back Friday. So you folks have a good time, and we will see you again real soon.
Free stuff kicks butt.